In the playoffs, only thing you're doing really in life is you're either watching film, you're eating, barely, and you're sleeping. And when you're sleeping, you're thinking about the games. You're not thinking about anything else. You're not thinking about anything outside of the walls in which you are in. You're not thinking anything outside of the house. This consumes you 24 hours a day. You're locked into what you should do, what you're going to do, and trying to manifest that onto the next game. Game twos, game fives, they are the momentum games to me. When you see teams win, regardless of game one, but when they win game two, a lot of time it catapults them because they have the more current momentum. It carries you into that game three, which is a real thing. You know, I know sometimes they talk about how cars drift and how they catch each other's like momentum to carry them into a curve or to carry them through. It's similar to that. Game fives are probably the most pivotal because you're going, if you can get a game five, game six is right there to be able to be grabbed. And when you're going into a game six and you're up, you have the momentum. It's also the most pressure. The hardest thing to do in the playoffs is to close someone out because they know they're getting closed out. And this is when you kind of pin the dog in the corner, and this is when you get the most and the greatest of the dogs fight. And that fight is a real fight because it goes back to that theory of doubt. Everybody has doubt in their mind. No one wants to succumb to it. But when you're down 3-1 and you know that, man, one bad game from us is pretty much it, that's in the back of your mind. And that team that's coming forward, they're constantly reminding you. And then when you're that team coming forward, you have to take those steps to finish those teams off because confidence. If you give any guy, any team, nonetheless, any organization confidence, that can be a game changer. Look at the Celtics. The Celtics played with more confidence and more grit in that series.
The playoffs are the best time of the season, obviously. You know, the weather starts getting warm. Basketball really starts to go, you know. So to me, you know, throughout my career, I was fortunate enough to make the playoffs a lot of times. And, you know, it was a blast and a privilege every time we got the opportunity.
I think for me, having, you know, been able to win the championship early in my career, I think just the mentality is from a winning organization is just get through game by game. You don't really go into the playoffs thinking about the seeding. You go in there knowing who's going to be the best team in that series, right? Because that's all that matters. Nothing in the regular season matters. No, who on their team don't matter. It's about being who's the best team in that series. And that's what you focus on. You don't really focus on nothing else, just being the best team in that series, doing what you can to try to get out that series. And that's what we did as an AC. We were confident. We felt like we could beat anybody in the league at that time. And it just so happened to be the number one seed. But I think it's just about being in that moment and understanding that it's not about nothing else but being the best in those 7 games. I think for me, being able to close out a game or close out a playoff series is important because a lot of times you don't want to give that team any more life, and sometimes you need to close that game because you're going back to their arena, and it's definitely hard to win on the road. So for me, they call me Mr. Game 6 because I always play good. I always play big in Game 6 for some reason. I don't know why, but I was able to come up clutch. But when you get a chance to close out a team in the playoffs, you have to do it because if you give them any type of life, you could be going home.
I think home court is beautiful, but at the same time, you know, to win championships, you got to be able to, you know, at some point win on the road. But, you know, having a strong support, a strong home court is always a great advantage. I remember in particular, you know, obviously the Oracle crowd, you know, when we were able to get into the playoffs versus Dallas, and although we only went one round, you couldn't tell the fans nothing. They were in there an hour and a half early, standing, screaming, while we're doing not even our team warm-ups, like our individual warm-ups. Like we're getting shots before we even warm up as a team, and they were just in there. The electricity was crazy. I remember one time in particular, Steve Kerr was there. He was an analyst, you know, obviously now the current coach of the Warriors, and he said he had never heard an arena that loud in his life, you know, and he obviously played with MJ and Timmy and, you know, coached the Warriors now, and it's just that he still said like that energy we had in Oracle was special. So obviously a home court advantage is important, and it's fun to make them kind of, you know, take care of business in front of your home crowd.
If it happens in the NBA Finals, it's forever. Visit NBA.com/finals to learn more.